Okay, guys, we've begun our preparation for the opener, and obviously Utah's a very formidable opponent. This is Pac-12 champ, back-to-back years. And certainly, ton of respect for Coach Whittingham, Coach Cali, Coach Ludwig, just the brand of football, right? Had a chance to compete against them in the past. Certainly last year was a heck of a football game, but they definitely have an identity, and it's one of the reasons why they've been able to perform with consistency and be a contender year in, year out. So this is a veteran defense, veteran quarterback. And word out of Utah, it's the most talented team they've ever had there. So we understand the implications of playing there relative to their record, all the things that come with that. And I think the focus here is planning our work and working our plan, right? And I think we've got to be committed to following through each day. What is our daily plan, all parts of the organization. This is not just players, this is staff as well. You want people walking around the building thinking that their role in the team and within the organization might just be the difference, right? And that what they do each day makes an impact and can make an impact on the final result here. So, I think we've got to really zero in here, going to play on the road in a very tough, competitive environment. Our attitude, our mindset, right? We've got a lot of momentum. We've been working for a long time, since January. We've got to get the details right here at the very end. So, what questions do we have?
You mentioned veteran quarterback Cam Rising. Do you expect him to play? It seems like he hasn't been cleared yet, that they might have some uncertainty at that quarterback.
Well, we're preparing for all of the above, is what I would say. And I do think they have very capable players, right? But we got to see Cam live and in person. Certainly know Cam, his family, ton of respect for him as a person, but competitor, leader, football player, he's a real quarterback. And so, we're doing all the homework we can here, but there's really some unique players at quarterback that they have on the roster that cause you to really evaluate all the scenarios that could happen. I know our defensive staff has been working on that.
A lot's been said about the team dynamic this year, the level of buy-in, family atmosphere. Where do you see that show up in a game?
Well, I think we're going to, I think that's to be determined, right? I think each team's a little bit different, right? I think you work to build intangibles, to establish connection, that there is a certain level of loyalty, relative to each person's role in the team, right? You kind of got to agree to an expectation. It's really what this game is all about. We play a great game. I'm walking off the field yesterday, and I'm telling our guys, I love football. I love it. Love everything about it, right? And I think that it's about the people that you do it with, right? And the players, the staff. When done the right way, it's hard to beat, right? So, we'll see where we're at. I think the competition oftentimes uncovers, if you've been working hard to build a healthy team and a healthy team dynamic, then those things get uncovered in competition. So this group has worked at that, and it certainly, for me, feels like some of the teams that we've had in the past.
I think I read in the game notes, third true road game in the last 35 years to open the season. The challenge of that, and then also, did you think about going a day early with the altitude, which is kind of a unique factor?
Well, obviously, regardless of when the game is, playing at Utah, and really more about the program, right, what they've established there. We respect that, right? They've got a fantastic record at home. It is an opener. It is read out. We understand they'll be at full capacity. There'll be some Gators out there too, I imagine. So The altitude, we've spent extensive time researching that relative to our sports science and our training staff. And all indications tell us to go stay in your normal routine. It really takes 10 days to get adjusted. Get in, get out. We've met with a lot of NFL teams regarding that. So we feel good about our plan.
What is the potential impact? I mean, all teams have home field advantages. Is that something to it? I mean, late in the game, for example, you got a lot of guys that are pretty big on this. I mean, 350-pound guys. I mean, does it cost maybe a few snaps potentially, endurance-wise, or is that even a non-factor to you?
Well, I think we have a good plan. I think it's more about the football. I think the altitude, obviously, everybody likes to talk about that. But Coach Whittingham's teams and the way they play football have been ultimately more important than that. So I think he's done a fantastic job creating an identity for his team that's allowed them to be consistent.
Billy, another thing you talked a lot about this offseason was just the familiarity and continuity in year two. How does that play up heading into game week?
Well, we've got a core group of veterans that, are in the systems for the second year. They understand all the processes, the structure, routine, all those things matter. I do think we also have a lot of new players, right? So I go back to the analogy, students learning the material for the second time, the teachers teach the material for a second time, right? We've spent more time on our things that will affect the final result than maybe last year. You got a long set of problems to solve, coming up with solutions for those, getting to know people, not only your roster, but new people you've hired, not to mention administration and recruiting. We're just in a little bit better place relative to established routine and familiarity. So I think we'll benefit from that.
Sort of along the lines about the pace of the rebuild you have going here. Fans aren't known for patience.
Right.
And they see, rebuilds that have been quicker at LSU, TCU, things like that. What would you tell them about the pace of the rebuild here, and what would be a fair gauge of success this year?
Yeah, I'm not into comparisons on rebuilds. I think that, we have been tasked with, not just being competitive here. We want to accomplish significant success, big picture. We know what this place is capable of. I think what we try to do is get consumed with the impact that we can have on the player as a person, as a student, as a football player. We want to teach a set of values. We want to develop the player as a person relative to what he can accomplish when the game is over. We're going to prioritize education for the player. And then we're going to teach football at a high level and develop football players that make up our team, right? And then we're going to be process-oriented, system-oriented, and we're going to get really good at those processes and systems. Those things ultimately will affect the end result. There's a number of things that affect the result, right? And we all want to talk about results and what results matter. But ultimately for us, it goes back to what I just said. We plan our work each day. We work our plan. We get consumed with the details that we know will affect the result. And ultimately, we're in the middle of that process. This is evaluation. It's recruitment, right? It's development. It's building a team. It's leadership. It's accountability. It's fundamentals and techniques. It's communication. It's how we practice. I could go on and on about all the things that affect whether we win or lose, but ultimately, I think you got to get consumed with each day and what that entails. That's what we're in the middle of doing.
Time for a few more guys. Billy, obviously last year was a different team, but for the guys that were a part of that win against Utah, what can they take from that experience and just what that took to open up the season within a matchup like this?
Well, that game is going to have nothing to do with this game, right? The players on our team and the players on their team are going to line up and play this year, right? So I think that we have some familiarity. Obviously, we spent time planning for that game. They spent time planning for that game. There's a little bit more, background in that regard. But, ultimately, this team that we have this year has got to put the ball down and go compete and find a way to win the game, right? So there's a lot of motivators here, and certainly on their side, they'll be very motivated.
Then when we met with Graham last week, he talked a lot about playing free, and that he can do that now here and in this offense. What does that mean to you, and how do you feel like that's going to show up on the field with him?
Well, I think you can play the game the right way when you're well prepared. And ultimately, the season presents us the challenge of preparing 1 week at a time, right? We started preparation for Utah. Yesterday was our first practice. Monday was our first planning day. And I think if you're doing what you're supposed to do as a player each day, okay, then when you get to the game, you're well prepared and you can go play with confidence, right? And I think he's experienced training camp from that regard because he did what he was supposed to do all winter, all spring, all summer, and he's equipped to go out there in a practice setting and be competitive and do his job for the team. Now the variables change, right? The personnel changes, where we're playing, their scheme, our scheme, and I think being a quick study, having a process to get ready to play the game, that's where it's won, right? And I think Graham will do a good job in that area. That's what he's done so far. And I think each player on our team has to understand that. I think we're beginning a new competition each week, and certainly we're in the process of getting ready for Utah.
What stood out to you about Jordan Castell over the last couple weeks?
Jordan's a really smart player. He's instinctive. I think Jordan has always been you go to Jordan's school, I think he's well respected there. His character, he's a good teammate, and he was a leader on his team, right? So Jordan's been a worker. He's in the building. He's doing extra meetings. He's trying to get up to speed, but he's got height, length. He's got traits for that position. And I think he's a guy that, he's proved to be very productive in a practice setting. So the game's a whole new world, right? And I think his growth throughout this season, he's only going to continue to get better.
You touched on Utah's brand of football physicality. Last year you guys matched that. I'm curious about the physical matchup and how important you see that in terms of Thursday.
No, it's part of the equation, right? And certainly it's part of who we are and how we play, and it's certainly the same for them. So the key is that, the game's about one-on-ones, right? And I think the way they play, the way we play, there'll be individual matchups in the game, right? The technique, the effort. We talked a lot about that with our team. They're going to be all over the field, right? So you got to be well prepared, and you got to do your job within each play.
Really, the tight end position is one that right now I think we maybe use the label by committee approach to refer to that. Just where do you see that, and what's maybe the opportunity there for some of these young guys? Yeah, no, we've got really good young players in that room. I'm very pleased with the progress that they've made. Now, new game plan. There's a lot of information relative to that. The variables change. So we'll have some growing pains there, but I do think that group, their attitude, their approach to practice, meetings, walkthroughs has been really good. And they've really gotten a lot better. So, Hanson, Livingston, Boardingham, really no experience. We do anticipate getting Xanders back. He'll be able to participate today and tomorrow. So we'll see where he's at relative to being ready for the game. But that's one of the positions on our team where we're going to have young players playing, right? Safety's very much in the same world, but I do have confidence in those guys and their approach.
Time for two more guys. Zach it up.
Where's Kingsley Aguican at this point? I don't think we were able to ask you about him last week, but do you anticipate he'll be good for game day?
Kingsley's to be determined. I think he's day to day. We do like the progress that he's making, right? So,
you know, he's gotten a little bit incrementally better as we go here, and certainly he's a very veteran player too. I think that's part of the equation. So, but we'll let you know when we get to the end of the week.
You know, following up on that, how have guys like Jake Slaughter and maybe Najee Harris performed in their reps at center while Kingsley's been out, and kind of how does that unit progressed? You know, now that you got to see the depth.
No, Jake Slaughter's a player I have the utmost confidence in. You know, he's been outstanding in his role. It's really important to Jake. You know, he wants to do his job for his teammates. He cares about the University of Florida. It's kind of in his DNA to some degree, being local. So he's done fantastic. And I do think we've worked other players there. Obviously, you talked about Najee, but Richie Leonard can play center. Rod Kearney is a good young prospect that could play there. So I think that we feel good about the depth there of the interior offensive line. You know, so it's a good group.